Welcome back to Rolling Hills Soul Care Podcast. My name is Jazzy, and I'm here with Chuck. How are you doing, Chuck?
Good, Jazzy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm contemplating what color a white horse is.
We were asked that recently.
Yes, someone recently asked me that, and I find myself just stymied.
We will ponder that. That's a future podcast.
We will ponder these things in our heart.
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind writing that down, I'm going to need an answer for that. Sometime in the summer, we'll hit that blog post. Speaking of blog posts, would you like to read one for us?
Sure.
Okay. See, this is why I was distracted by the white horse, because the title of this post is Things Are Not As They Seem.
Blog post 107.
All right.
For those who want to look it up. So here's what I wrote. How far away is heaven? When I think about the throne room of God Almighty, I often picture it as a far away place, somewhere up above us. But is it? Or is heaven a spiritual dimension that's right here with us all the time? In Genesis 28, Jacob is given a vivid vision of a ladder or flights of steps between heaven and earth with angels ascending and descending on it. He said, "How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." That's from Genesis 28:17. In John 20, the disciples are gathered together in a room with the doors shut tight because of their fear of the Jews, and it says that Jesus simply came and stood in their midst. Jesus didn't knock or open the door. He was just suddenly there with them. Later, when the Apostle John is exiled on the island of Patmos, he is given a spectacular view into the spiritual realm, which John wrote about in the book we call Revelation. At the beginning of chapter 4, John says, "After this I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven." John is on an island off the coast of modern-day Turkey, but he sees a door that opens into heaven. Not only that, but John is invited to come up here and see even more. If Jacob was able to see angels ascending and descending on a ladder in the land of Israel, Jesus just appeared in a room with the disciples when they were praying in fear after his death, and a door opened so John could see the throne room of heaven from his location on Patmos. It seems like heaven isn't some faraway place. Instead, it's a different dimension that's right here with us all the time. We just can't see it without God specifically revealing it to us. My problem is that I tend to get overly focused on what my human senses can detect. I'm currently in an earth suit with eyes and ears that show me earthly things. But the Apostle Paul told us in 2 Corinthians 4:18, "As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal." Soul care is one way to get perspective on reality. This world works hard to paint a picture of a reality that it wants us to believe. When we draw near to Jesus through prayer, Bible reading, silence, solitude, contemplative worship, and other things, he enables us to see that things in this world are not as they seem. We already know the victory is won. We know the Lamb is on the throne. That is reality, not what this world tries to tell us reality is. As we focus on that with the spiritual eyes that God has given to us, that throne room in heaven is a lot closer than we realized. And we can pray these words with even greater conviction. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Thank you, Chuck. This is one of those subjects that, I grew up in a Christian household, so I've never not known about concepts of Jesus and stuff. I like how I just tossed it, Jesus and stuff.
Jesus.
But anyway,
Yeah.
The older I get, the more I find that, just growing up like that and having this be kind of just a part of your life, Jesus and stuff, I find all these holes, giant holes of things that, oh, I never thought of that. Or why do I think that? Why do I believe that? This whole concept of like heaven being the far off place and everything, why did that just come up is something that I realized was a giant hole. Like I was just, we just grew up thinking, yay, God's up in heaven looking down. And never occurred to me, where did this come from? Is it just these little things about, hey, Jacob climbed up the ladder, or, John had his dream and saw that thing. So you said something just so interesting that like, it's not just about the physical thing that it could be. It's a bigger concept than we as kids could understand. It's more about God's presence with us and Jesus bringing his kingdom in our hearts and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I need to qualify here. I'm not a theologian. So there may be somebody out there that would say, I don't know. But as I was reflecting on it, and this was actually, this blog post was born out of a book I was reading by Darrell Johnson as a pastor and on the book of Revelation. And it got me thinking about, the book it really helped paint a clearer picture of Revelation for me, but it got me thinking about, one, things are not as they seem. And again, we've talked many times about we are overly focused on what our senses tell us is happening versus the spiritual realm. And but also that whole sense of where is heaven? And I don't even pretend to understand completely. It's not uncommon. We often, even John is told when there's a door, it says, "Come up here." Jacob's ladder is going up.
Yeah.
So there is some sense, and the as high as the heavens, which is not necessarily a reference to heaven itself, but there's some sense of up. But if God exists at all times and he's present in all places, then it begins to make sense to me that there is, I may be trying to compartmentalize and make heaven a place like Sydney, Australia, that I've never been to.
But it's going to be great when we get there.
And I know it's there, but I can't get there from here. And I just picture it as some place way up there. And we tend to hear, somebody passes away, and I know they're going to be looking down on me.
Right.
Will they be? Anyway, I'm not writing this from the standpoint of, hey, here's super deep theological thinking from some bright person. Quite the opposite. It's a seeker who's trying to understand how to follow my Jesus in a deeper, more personal, intimate way. Mm-hmm. And if I don't consider him to be far away, like a pen pal, and instead he's with me like he is, and I know that. So if I know that, it's for me, it's beginning to put things together logically, and that's what this was about. Is where is Jesus? Where is heaven? Is it? And again, I'm not trying to, but I can almost begin to understand it better if it's a spiritual dimension. Mm-hmm. If we know we cannot always, most of the time, we cannot see spiritual things unless God reveals it to us. I'm reminded of the time where Elisha is surrounded by the army of the Arameans, and his servant is like, "What are we going to do?" And he asks God to open his servant's eyes, which tells me God had already opened his eyes and allowed him to see that, yes, they were surrounded, but there was another army surrounding them
right.
of an even greater number and obviously greater power. And that was a spiritual dimension that others couldn't see unless it was revealed to them by God.
Mm-hmm.
Which means it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist except when God decides to make it happen. It said it's there all the time.
Mm.
And we just can't see it.
Yeah.
Because we don't, again, I'm not a scientist, but we all know that, we can't see certain wavelengths of light where other
Sure.
creatures do.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that ultraviolet light doesn't exist in this room. I just can't see it. Because my eyes aren't equipped for that. My human eyes are not equipped to see the spiritual realm. But God can choose when to allow us to see that dimension, which means it's likely present all the time. But it isn't confined to this earth by any means. So there's where is heaven? I think it's bigger than we can imagine.
It feels like it has to be something more than we can conceptualize.
Yeah, well, and when you think about, okay, I mean, I can't even get my arms wrapped around a God who controls this entire world, and yet this is one tiny globe in the universe.
Gigantic universe. Yes.
And if God's controlling all of that, then I think I try to limit how big heaven is, and if heaven is where God is, then heaven may be as big as the universe, which last time I checked is pretty stinking big. But that gives me an even greater sense of, well, how big is my God then? And that's like, I can't get my head wrapped around it. Again, for me, the purpose of this was just helping me to better understand as I think about when I pray to God, is he in some far off place?
Yeah, are we dialing the phone?
Yeah.
Or are we just looking around?
Or is he immediately present with me?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the part that's true. He's immediately present with me. And we can draw on that. And, there's where I'm not thinking about some far off kingdom. There is a new kingdom that will come. Mm. That will happen. Revelation and other books tell us about it. But his kingdom, we're part of his kingdom here on earth. Mm-hmm. And so how do I live that out? And being, trusting that he's here with me. That's part of what we're doing. And soul care is part of that equipping process. How do I strengthen myself to be part of his army, mm-hmm. and go out into this world and live a life that points others to him? It's
such a privilege to be walking with, to mm-hmm. not just looking for, right, but for Jesus to tell us that I am with you, and everything you just said.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that one day God's going to crack open a door and allow us to see it with our own eyes while we're still here on earth. But we will get to see it one day. And I'm looking forward to that.
I do feel like when I was 4 or 5, I was probably waiting for a door in the sky to open up. But we're not here to define heaven, so I guess
there we go.
I'll just keep waiting and enjoying my walk. Okay, thank you so much, Jack.
This was it felt like a heavier topic, but it was one that, again, I write these mostly to myself. Maybe it's helping somebody who's listening.
Well, we're all grateful for your process to yourself because it speaks to us as well. Probably not to every single person in the exact same way, but that's part of the beauty of God's revelation, right? Awesome. Well, thank you once again for sharing with us, Chuck, and thank you for listening. If you want to hear more, you can always subscribe to this feed. We will also find older podcasts, and our Sunday teachings from our Sunday gatherings are on there as well. You can go to rollinghills.org/worship to find that, and the I keep saying physical, but it's a digital blog. That's what a blog is. It's a digital thing. archived blog posts, older reminiscence that we have had. You can find all those at rollinghills.org/worship, or you can follow RH Worship on Instagram. So thanks for listening.